everyone, this is your OG, and this is another Godforge video. Simon dropped a video this morning giving us the latest updates on the alpha testing. We'll provide reaction and commentary briefly on this video to highlight for you what we saw. So without further ado, let's optimize.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. So I want to give you guys...
All right, so Simon is going to give us, I'm going to bump the playback speed just a hair. Simon is going to give us some announcements around the alpha and when that is going to be taking place. He's looking, he says, towards the end of July. He said he was hoping today to be able to announce when it would start and everything like that, but there's just a few more things they'd like to pull together to be 100%, so we should be looking for that announcement next Tuesday, a little under a week from today, just at the beginning of July, and that will tell us when the first waves are starting, who's in what waves, all the information we've been waiting for. He said they've been testing. He tests the game every day on his PC, his Mac, his Android, and his iOS, Apple phone. He says that PC, it's really feeling good. So obviously probably Mac is in a similar situation, but he doesn't specifically call it out. He says Android is good, but there's some buggy pieces with it. And then iOS or Apple is kind of the farthest behind because Apple requires you to have like very low memory requirements, and they're just not at an optimized point to be able to be there yet. So that's kind of the update per platform or per device. So he says the end of this week, in fact tomorrow, they're going to be cutting off any bugs that aren't medium, high, or critical. So it's going to be, there's a content lock. They're not adding anything further. So what it is what it is if it's not changed before tomorrow. At least for the alpha, I should say. So then that'll be the alpha experience we have, and then they'll continue to make changes from there. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is guaranteed to be in the game exactly as it is. Hopefully that disclaimer is just sort of always out there because all of this can change. So even if I say, oh, this is this or this is that, it doesn't mean it's going to stay that way when we get all the way to the global launch or anything like that. We simply are reporting what we know right now. So he talks about prioritizing dev activities, like I said, not going and fixing these bugs unless they're medium, high, or critical bugs. He gives us a pretty good example of that as he gets to Guinevere, and you could see her leg here. He says these are the kind of bug fixes that they are just going to, they're not going to focus on them. They have to prioritize, more importantly, on the medium, high, and critical bugs that impact gameplay and the flow of the game. So little bugs like this, they're going to note them and mark them, and they'll fix them in time, but it won't be things they're focused on for getting to the alpha. Otherwise, they'd just be bogged down in very small importance type fixes, which they're there and they are important as well, but they have to prioritize and focus on the most important things. Simon shows a few pieces of gear and how they level up, and this is working. And we put out a video just showing some of the introductory information on gear, like what you get for a bonus for a 2-piece gear set. We didn't see any of the 4-piece or 6-piece gear set bonuses, so there's still more to know there. In addition, we're going to want to see there's certain stats, it looks like, that align to different gear set types. So we're going to want to kind of look at that and see what stats you're most likely to expect on this type of gear. It seems like there's a correlation to some degree. So we will get you all of that in a more complete gear breakdown video as part of a series that we'll be putting out called OG's Art of Winning. And that is a 10-part series, and it will cover all, it's like a basic introductory to the game. We're going to start with affinities and go all the way through to masteries and imprints, and we're going to cover all of that. But of course, really doesn't make sense to put that out until we've been into the alpha experience and we can confirm some of our assumptions. I don't want to give you bad information or have you thinking something is one way when it's not. So expect that to be coming out as we get into the alpha and as you EuroG is able to test and try out some of these different pieces. We'll be putting out a complete beginner's guide series for you. Okay, so you can look for that in the future. He shows Green Knight here. Green Knight also has Drain on his basic. So that was interesting. We got to see that. He talks about imprinting on weapons. So what's kind of cool is he says that the passive here for Green Knight isn't unlocked. Okay, he says you need to ascend the hero to unlock the passive. So when you get your champion, maybe when you first pull them, it looks like they'll have a basic and the core and the ultimate, but maybe their passive is locked until you ascend them. So that's interesting because that passive ties into the imprinting on weapons. You imprint their passive on the weapons, but if the passive is locked, probably you can't imprint it. So it looks like they've made it so that you have to ascend your champion before you can start imprinting champions on weapons. And then what it does is it gives you kind of a double or triple passive. We'll talk about that here in a second. All right. Then he gets into, so he talks about upgrading the champion. You see here he has Drain 1, Curse of Gawain. That is, and he's upgrading skills. Okay, so you can see both passives upgrade. He says that's probably not supposed to happen. At more levels went up than there should have been. But this is scrolling up his skills. So he maxed out his basic at 4. Then it looks like it used to be the basic, core, and ultimate were 4 levels each. It looks like it's changed. The basic is now maybe 4 levels, the core is 5 levels, and the ultimate is 6 levels, which I think is okay. I think that's a fair change. And then there's the passive here that shows level 4 as well, but he said he thinks that's a glitch. Like that maybe shouldn't have gone up to level 4. But we get the idea of how we're going to upgrade our skills, and you can see here he goes from a 75% chance to place Drain 1 on his basic for 3 turns, all the way up to a 100% chance to place Drain 1 for 3 turns on a triple hitter. So that looks like a great pairing with a Guan Yu or a Guan Yu's passive imprinted on Green Knight. Could be an interesting thing as well. So perhaps we'll see some synergy type videos in the future with Green Knight and Guan Yu. Now that Anubis no longer has Drain in his kit. All right, so they're talking about we didn't get to see Ascension there. It's kind of blocked out. They talk about promotion and how they have these sort of souls, like your food champions become souls. You also see these when he goes into the Alpha Cavern of Chaos. They're rewards. So it's almost just like chickens, if you were, like souls that help you rank up. So he needs 3 stars to get up to 4 stars. That's pretty straightforward. And he goes in and talks about a few of those different functionalities that we will need in the Alpha Cavern to max out or to get our teams built up to take on every level. All right, so that is pretty cool. I think the imprinting on the weapons, I know we're not going to get to it immediately, but here he talks about the smithy. This is where you go in and can work on your weapons. So obviously we'd seen Excalibur. Now we see Bloodsword, and we also see a weapon attuned to Ra. And so we're getting an idea of some of the weapons passives. So you can see here this Bloodsword weapon increases the damage of attacks by 15% of this hero's missing HP. So as the hero loses HP, their attack goes up. So that's valuable. If your Slayers don't have strong HP, they get stronger every time they take that hit. So this is a passive. If you put this weapon on the champion, they're going to get this. But you can also imprint a passive on the weapon and then give it to the champion, which is kind of cool. And he shows that here. So you almost get 3 passives for each champion. The passive they have naturally, the passive for the weapon you put on them, and the imprint that's on. And Simon is showing here how he imprints Minotaur's passive, increase the chance to strong hit by 10% while at full divinity. He puts this imprint onto the weapon, so it has its passive plus Minotaur's passive, and then plus your own hero's passive as well. So you have basically 3 passives that you can stack up by using imprints and this system. So I think that's going to be extremely powerful. This is the imprint library. So this is like your extra champions that you're going to use for imprinting, and you're not using them to actually use. So I was curious. I was going to see if there was like a vault, right, where you keep your extra champions. But it seems that Fateless may have found a number of like innovative ways to keep us from just gathering this overwhelming number of champions without a clear way to use them. Okay, so you can use a hero, it seems, to imprint on a weapon. And then you give that weapon to another hero, and this gives them this double, triple multitude of synergistic combos. Because you have the passive of the hero, the passive of the weapon, and the imprint on the gear and weapon as well. That's 3 passives plus attunement when we get to that as well. Lots of layers to work with, so that's really exciting. And you get to see Pengu's passive here as well. If this hero has more initiative than speed, attack steals 5% turn meter. If it has more speed than initiative, it steals divinity. Makes sense, right? If you're trying to be faster so you can go faster, it takes your turn meter. If you're trying to have more initiative so you get your ultimate faster, it steals your divinity. Pengu, we're going to touch base on his skills at the end of this video. You're not going to want to miss this. There's some interesting quick leaks on Pengu. All right, so Simon then shows us Musashi's imprint. 2 heavens as 1 imprint. This is interesting. Places ward on this hero for 1 turn after they place taunt on an enemy. So we didn't know Musashi's kit, but it looks like we can assume he places taunt on maybe his core or his ultimate, not sure, and his passive places ward, which heals and removes bleed stacks from him for 1 turn if he places taunt on the enemy. So that's a cool buff for disable passive, and you could obviously put this on a champion that has taunt but doesn't have ward. And that imprint would help them place ward on them. So this is how you could use Musashi's passive to imprint on a champion that places taunt but does not have any healing or ward. Very interesting there. Okay, so he extracted Musashi's imprint there. You see it, so it's in his collection now, and he can imprint. This is the Cavern of Chaos. We're going to go back just real quick to pause at that. So you can see these are the chicken type souls here, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. And so obviously this is what you're going to be using to promote your champions from 10 to from like the level 10 to level 11 to 20 to 21 to 30, 31 to 40. There's 10 level increments, and every time you hit a 10th level, you gotta promote your champion, and these chickens or souls will be the best way, I think, for us to do that rather than sacrificing other actual champions. You can see he takes us in, and he's using Green Knight because he just built him up a bit, and he wants to grab Pengu because just I think it's on the social media side yesterday or today, they released Pengu's VX, one of his attacks. Pretty cool looking attack. So he's going to show him and kind of highlight him. He also switches him, so we got to see Pengu's leader bonus. But he talks here about how the lighting, you can see the lighting for Dagonet looks good, this lighting looks good, this lighting looks good, but Isolde's lighting does not look good. She looks like she's in the dark. He said these are the kind of things that he's calling out as he's playtesting. The arena, this environment is newer, or new. I don't think we've seen this. Looks like it might be the Olympus, it might be Olympus, or it could be Asgard. I'm not sure. Probably Asgard, actually. I think it looks more like Asgard. But pretty cool to see. And this we get to see real quick here. Pengu, this is his basic, I think, or he might switch and actually do his... Yeah, I think he switches and does his core ability. And so we're going to watch for what he puts out during that core ability. Simon is just talking about the lighting and things he looks for while testing it to make sure that they're capturing all the bug fixes and all the tweaks and improvements that they need to make. I am going to set this to 0.7 speed so that we can capture. Yep, and here comes his attack. Okay, so he hits, and what you notice, you see accuracy up 2 and lock ultimate ability, okay? So that is really interesting. First champion we've seen that has a lock ability, and that looks like his core because he has a 3-turn cooldown. So accuracy up 2 he places, and he also places the lock ultimates, at least on one champion. So we've seen our first champion now that does a lock ultimate ability or debuff, and we're going to see that's from Pengu. He also increases accuracy, so that's helpful. And then we see the Green Knight do something that will also be kind of interesting to look at as well. We didn't know all of the Green Knight's kit, but we did learn his basic is a triple hitter with a 75% chance to put Drain, which scrolls up to a 100% chance to put Drain 1. So that is really interesting because you have someone like Guan Yu, whose passive does 20% more damage for people under Drain, and here is a triple hitter A1 or basic ability that Green Knight has that lands Drain. So could be a very powerful synergy between Green Knight and Guan Yu. Lots of layers to work with, lots of good details. Again, like I said, we're going to be putting out the OG's Art of Winning beginner series here as we get into the alpha and we confirm certain details. We don't want to put it out too early for you because, you know, some of these things can change or they're still speculative, and we want to make sure we have the best information for you. So once we get into the alpha testing and start confirming things, your OG will be putting out a complete 10-part beginner series for you to take you through all of the aspects of Godforge and help define all the pieces that you're going to need to know. So that is all for this update. We grabbed all those stats, all those hero info, all the kits, and we're going to look forward to next week's announcement. That sounds pretty cool. We're only 6 days out now. Tomorrow, the content is locked, so that's exciting. We're going to be getting real close when we know that's happening. So thank you for sticking with us all the way to the end. Like and subscribe if you feel that's the right thing for you, but most importantly, take care of yourself, and remember, play smarter.